this has been demonstrated. We have experienced other attacks later, because it became clear during this crisis that it is true. We were clear friends of the United States of America, and unapologetically so, and I believe that is the position until today. But that demonstration of our fraternal relationship between our two countries made us even greater targets of the threat of terror in the years to come. And lastly, of course, that Kenya in 1998 was propelled to the international terrorism scene, resulting to loss of business, particularly in the tourism sector. I think from that time, our tourism sector went south and has never recovered again, because unlike before, it became clear to foreigners that Kenya is a prime target of a terror attack. What interventions, policy, legislative, have we done as a ministry over the years to learn from this unfortunate experience, to make the country safer and to make sure that this does not occur again? As I have said, the institutional building first. Now we have the anti-terror police unit. It continues to do a great job every day. Hundreds of terror threats have been thwarted in the last 25 years, 27 years. There has been tremendous successes, notwithstanding the few instances where terrorists have been able to hurt us after the 1998. The establishment of the Anti-Terror Police Unit, the establishment of the National Counter-Terrorism Center, the establishment of the Financial Reporting Center has been critical. Chair, the Financial Reporting Center helps us to track the inflows of finances into our financial system. And we've been able, through the Financial Reporting Center, to detect funds or resources which we believed would have been used to finance terror, and under the law, both national and international, those funds are forfeited. Of those finances. We have established the Coast Guard to enhance our surveillance of Kenya's internal waters and territorial seas to avoid terrorists using the oceans from approaching the territory of our country. Chair, we have established the Transnational Organized Crime Unit, which, among other things, deals with the prevention of terror, and we have established the Asset Recovery Agency, so that when we freeze finances which are destined to finance terror, they are forfeited. And the agency that is the recipient of forfeited funds is the Asset Recovery Agency. And therefore, in a nutshell, through institutional building, we have made our homeland better prepared to prevent a recurrence of the sad and devastating we had in 1998. Number two, we have improved on our border control. Before 1998, the border control system was weak. As a result of this attack, we put in place a system known as PISIS, which means Personal Identification Secure Comparison and Evaluating System. Personal Identification Secure Comparison and Evaluating System, PISIS, which has served the country well for more than 20 years. However, we experienced some attacks. In 2014, in Westgate, 2013, 2014. Thereafter, 2015, Garissa University. Thereafter, in 2019, Dusit, with various numbers of casualties. What we have done in border control, therefore, is that we are reviewing system, the pieces system, and we are replacing it with a new, more technologically advanced system known as Advanced Passenger Information / Passenger Record System, API / PNR. This system, we hope will be able to, and this system will enable immigration officers and border control officers and law enforcement agencies, including our intelligence service, to profile passengers journeys into Kenya from their country of origin. The moment a person starts a journey to travel to Kenya from whatever country, our agencies are aware what kind of person it is, whether he's on the red list of suspected criminals, and we can decide either to prevent them from traveling to Kenya, or once we profile them as dangerous or passengers suspected to be dangerous criminals, we allow them to travel, immobilize them so that they can help us with more information on what their intentions were and who else they were in cohorts with. So that decision therefore is left for us. Once we profile the person in advance, we can decide either to prevent them from entering the territory, or they come when we are aware what kind of people they are, and when we are prepared to immobilize them immediately they enter the territory of Kenya for purposes of interrogation. The API / PNR system will greatly move this country to a different level in terms of border management control. We hope this financial year we'll be able to install that system to develop all pieces. Other than Honorable Chair, we have that is the Proceeds of Crime and Anti-Money Laundering Act. And these are very useful laws. The Proceeds of Crime and Anti-Money Laundering Act is what enables us to track proceeds of crime and the financials of terror, and be able to intercept, freeze, and disable the financing of terror, because the engine of terror is money. If you remove money from terrorism, ideology and radicalization without money cannot cause the kind of damages that we see. There must be money. So if this act has helped us. In fact, we amended it last month to make it even more difficult for financiers of terror to transport and convey resources across the world, especially into our country, to hurt us. The Prevention of Terrorism Act of 2012, game-changing legislation. It has helped us to deal with the suspects of terror differently from other suspects of other crimes. Because before that time, security agencies would arrest a terror suspect, but you have to produce that terror suspect in court within 24 hours, because that's what the law says, whether the investigations are complete or not. And given the complexity of terror, agencies require a little more time, because it has international network, it has so many complications, and therefore through this Prevention of Terrorism Act, we are able to hold suspects longer, up to 360 days for 1 year. And this is what we have applied to, and it has helped us big time. Of course, we produce them to courts occasionally for purposes of accountability. The courts themselves have been gracious. They have set up the anti-terror court, where terror-related issues are processed by the judiciary outside the normal judicial processes, and this has really helped in the fight against terror. And it's a democratic thing, Chair. That's what happens in all countries. Once somebody is profiled within the realms of terror, they are treated differently in all the countries, including the longest democracies of the world. We have also enacted the Computer Misuse and Cybercrimes Act of 2018. We have amended the Anti-Narcotics Act. We have amended the Refugees Act. We have amended the NGOs Act. And we have the game-changing legal amendments in the fight against terror was the controversial Security Laws Amendment Act of 2014. Because this is the amendment that, first of all, compelled for the first time security agencies, whether they are internal security organs or the defense forces, to work together in a multi-agency form, develop common standard operating procedures, share intelligence, work together to deal with terror, as opposed to in the past when agencies were in silos and sometimes working in competition with each other. So we're in good space. We continue to improve on the law to make sure that the country is safer and safer, and we are learning from the best jurisdictions of the world how to balance democracy on one hand, human rights, democracy, and the rule of law, and the right to presume suspects innocent, but on the other hand, to be able to have a grip on national security and make it a serious matter which requires special treatment of those who threaten the security of our homeland. We have amended the Firearms Act, Cap 114, to control the influence of small arms and light weapons, and the Kenya Citizenship and Immigration Act has also been amended to make it a bit difficult for foreign nationals to access our country and cause us harm if they are not good people. We have international collaboration on the fight against terror. We have enhanced information sharing mechanisms. We have enhanced financial regulation by the Central Bank of Kenya, and we have deployed financial regulation, we have deployed modern technology in policing, including the use of the Integrated Command Center, IC3, to monitor our major urban spaces and critical infrastructure like the ferry on a minute-by-minute basis. The Inspector General is able to monitor what is happening in critical spaces in major urban areas and major infrastructure on a minute-by-minute basis. On this to make sure that the country is safer than it is now. Finally, Chair and members and all the stakeholders present today, with these measures, the threat of terror remains world, especially countries that share the same ideals with our country. Therefore, even with the institutional and legal adjustments, amendments, and improvements, we must consciously sensitize members of the public and all people who live in this country that the threat of terror remains real, and we must always be alert and conscious. Number two, in my closing remarks, is to say that I am proud of the effort our security officers have put to defend the country from the threat of terror. Many have paid the price of this defense of the country with their lives. Others have been maimed. As we speak, in northern Kenya, where we've had incidents, a bit of Lamu, we have lost officers. Others have been injured significantly as they try and keep terror at bay And therefore, it's a good occasion to salute the work of our security agencies, especially the special police units and the multi-agency teams on counter-terrorism that were put in place. And finally, in my closing remark, is to say, from where I sit, the 1998 bomb blast in Nairobi, which was also extended to the U.S. Embassy in Dar es Salaam, perhaps to create diversionary consequence. That attack will remain in the history of our country as one of the worst attacks to have happened on our soil. And this attack, even if we have given some reasons why we believe it occurred, at the root of that attack was the friendship of Kenya with our traditional ally, the United States of America. From where I sit, therefore, I believe what this committee is doing is good for the country and for the world, and for our continued friendship with the United States of America. Unfortunately, the American citizens who lost or suffered in whatever other way as a result of this attack were compensated. From where we sit, and as the country's security minister, it is our view that what this committee is doing is a good thing, and we're in total support with the of Kenyans who lost their loved ones, who were injured or suffered damage or loss during this attack in the compensation scheme, because that attack was not directed at Kenya and Kenyans for their sake. It was directed at Kenya and Kenyans because of our friendship, our hosting, and our standing with the United States of America and their interests. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. CS, for that elaborate speech, and I would want to call upon the victims to have just 5 minutes to say something before I invite the senators to ask questions to the CS. And before they speak, Mr. Mondigi, Senator, can you come on record? Senator.
Good afternoon. My name is Alexander Mondigi, Senator for Embu County, Committee Member.
And welcome. Lillian, 5 minutes, because we don't have a lot of time.
Thank you. Thank you, our CS. And thank you for the good job that you're doing to ensure that we are safe as Kenyans. And everyone here will just speak briefly. Mine is just to highlight to you that my son was born that time, and even the mothers of the silent survivors, the children are now 25 years old. And the orphans who are also born that time, and those who are actually young, are a very vulnerable age, at a very vulnerable age, whereby out of the anger that they go through, they can easily be radicalized. So my request is that you can sit down with your committee and see what you can do to help us bring up people of integrity in this nation, because as I said, they're very vulnerable, and anything small can trigger them being taken to the other side and become an enemy of the nation. Thank you very much. I will allow my sister here, Grace, to speak on behalf of the orphans briefly, very briefly, kindly.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you, Honorable CS. For us as orphans, we appreciate the work that you're doing in terms of fast-tracking the passports for us. we are looking for employment. Most of us don't have jobs, so they're trying to see if you can get jobs outside the country. So we appreciate and we ask that your office continues to fast track that so that you can be able to get our passports. And as Lillian has spoken, I think there are so many vulnerable orphans. Things went haywire since they lost our parents, and most of them don't have jobs. They have so many idle time, so they engage in illegal acts, alcoholism, drug abuse. So all this is affecting all the orphans. Please have your committee look at it and how we can be able to support the orphans. Thank you.
I had 3 questions for you today as a widow of the 1998 bomb blast, but I'm happy because what you have read there, it answers some of my questions. But I'll go with 2 questions. One, what is the position of the Kenya government on the terrorism fund which was set aside to assist the victims of terror attacks since 1998 bombing? That's the first question. And finally, Bwana CS, is there plans to compensate the victim of 1998 bombing through the terrorism fund set aside for compensation by the government of Kenya? We are so proud that this time our government is up to assist us in finding justice since 1998. Thank you.
Bwana CS, through the chair of the ad hoc committee and the secretariat, mine is just a question, or rather I have a request that like my colleague here has asked about the passports. We would humbly ask through your capacity as the CS for Interior and National Administration, whether through your office we could get passports, the committee and the other survivors, because once in a while you find that there is exchange of the victims, like let's say like America, where you have a Oklahoma bombing and the 9/11 bombing also. So if there could be a facilitation through your office, this could be a big help to us, even for the survivors, for the orphans, for all the others. We ask that from your office. Thank you so much. Thank you. My name is Kithure Kindiki. Can you please distribute this to the senator? And it is a one-page. This is a one-page letter from the Ministry of Coordination. After 17 years of and to the CS, our honorable CS.
Continue, Bwana Kindiki, you have no time.
Yes. I want to read that letter, which was written in 2015 as an answer to our request for assistance from our Kenya government and compensation. This is from the office of the President, Minister of Interior, to Kithure Kindiki, Chairman of the 7th August 1998 Bomb Blast Association, and that was in June 2015. It is 7th August Bomb Blast Victims Compensation. We acknowledge receipt of your letter dated 5th March 2014 and the subsequent reminder of the same dated 2015. Here I think you can mark from, that is 1 year, and there have been subsequent reminders which is not noted. We wish to inform you that your request to the government to provide the victims of the 1998 American Embassy bomb blast compensation or assistance has been receiving attention, and efforts have been made to find ways by which your request may be met. The ministry sought from the Attorney General legal advice on how best government may deal with the nature of obligations towards victims of the terrorist bombing of the American Embassy in Nairobi. To have the victims. We inform you that the Attorney General has given the legal advice which calls for further processing of your request through other ministries and departments before a specific response may be given to you. We therefore intend to arrange for further consultations with the relevant authorities to determine what and the nature of action may be taken to assist the victims of the American Embassy bombings. We will revert. There I can say they have never reverted. And here, Mheshimiwa Bwana CS, I've seen you have talked about Porter. This Porter, I had complained to the Commission on Administrative Justice, and then your response. There was a response from the Interior. They said, on the other hand, the Kenya Parliament has passed the Prevention of Terrorism Act. That is what I see. It is Porter. Number 30 of 2012, which has created a compensation for victims of terrorism fund under Section 49, which provides that the Cabinet Secretary for the time for matters relating to internal security shall make regulations to you as the CS have made regulations to provide for the management and administration of the fund? Because in your answer responses, you have just only talked about security, have dealt with the victims. You see, when terrorists attack and victims are killed or what, that is victory for the terrorists. But when the victims are compensated or assisted, that's the terrorists can see they have done nothing. My Professor Kindiki, please, with those few questions, thank you.
Thank you very much. I now invite the senators to, if they have any questions or any comments to make. Very briefly, we have Bwana says you have how many minutes to give us, to ask questions and you respond?
20 or inclusive, Chair.
Thank you.
Respectively.
Thank you.
Yeah.
20 minutes. Let's give it.
Okay, thank you, Chair. I want to thank the CS and Senator for the presentation before this committee. One, in your presentation, of course, there is the issue of the perpetrators acquiring Kenyan identity facilitated by the public officers. Of course, that is regrettable, but we hope that you're doing so much, flashing back into the past few weeks, the efforts you've made at the immigration, that is an issue that will be dealt with going forward. Honorable the CS, it is also notable that some of these intrusions also came through charitable organizations, and that was not detected, of course regrettable, but 25 years after that, CS, we also see not an act of terror, but we saw right in the village in Kilifi,
such activities, again, not terror, but a criminal activity in the name of Shakahola. And it is regrettable that that was not detected. That is 25 years after a similar was not detected, and we saw the consequences of that. I hope as we plan for the coverage on urban centers, as a ministry, you do not also focus on the rural areas because of emerging trends of criminals and criminality. That is regrettable also. CS, those may not be questions, but you can comment on them. But as a Senate committee, we are looking forward to ensuring that Kenyans that lost their lives, Kenyans that lost opportunities, that were injured, some of them that are with us, if you are, we can say from the time this committee came into place, we have had very painful experiences listening to the testimony of Kenyans that were affected by the bomb blast, and we hope we will facilitate their compensation. Honorable Speaker, Honorable Chair, those were just comments. The CS can comment on them, but it is regrettable that 25 years we are also dealing with a massacre of that level at Shakahola. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Chairperson. Yangu ni kwa Bwana Waziri wa Ulinzi. Profesa, tumekuwa na watu wengi wamekuwa miaka mingi wakitumia mambo ya ulinzi. Wengi wamekuwa wakitumia kifua, wengi wamekuwa wakitumia hata kusikia wakipiga nguvu, na tunaona pia wanaenda magari mingi sana wakitembea juu ya ulinzi. Lakini kwa wewe tunasikia unaitwa profesa na umetumia uprofesa wako juu ya elimu na kufanya kazi nzuri kwa kipindi ya mwaka mmoja. Yale umenena ni mazuri, na pia nchi ya Kenya tumehudhuria, hata serikali za ng'ambo imehudhuria. Na tunapiga na rapa stamp kwa sababu tuliona stima ilipotea 24 hours. Na usiku hiyo yote hakuna wakati tulisikia kama kuna mambo ya wizi ama mambo ya mauaji ama mambo ambayo ya kuharibu. Kwa hivyo hiyo ni kitu moja tuliona kazi yako ni nzuri. Mambo ya pili, umezunguka Kenya yote isipokuwa ni kaunti ndogo usiku na vita kwa mpaka kama Northeastern, mambo tumesikia ukisifiwa, na upande mwingine tumesikia ukisifiwa. Hiyo ni kazi nzuri, na pia umetuambia ile kazi unafanya ndio ulinzi wa Kenya uweze kuendelea vizuri. Kitu ya pili nataka nikuambie, wakati mtu amelala usiku na mchana, huwa saa nyingine anaweza kufurahia, lakini nataka nikuombe tu, hata kama umefanya hiyo kazi yote, maadui ni wengi, na saa hiyo uko mbele ukikimbia vile utatulinda. Pia unjue kuna watu walivu wengi katika nchi ya Kenya, pia wanakuangalia usiku na mchana. Kwa hiyo nakuomba, hata kama unasaidia Kenya, endelea kuwa hiyo uprofesa wako, uendelee kuleta machini nyingi ya kuangalia ni nini inaweza kuharibu Kenya. Ya pili ya mwisho ni kuwa Bwana Waziri, hao watu waliumia kwa kipindi ya miaka 25. Na hiyo profesa wako unaweza kusaidia hao watu waweze kupata pesa zao, ufanye upelelezi na njia yako ile utatumia uwe na uwerevu kama ilikuwa na Solomon, hao watu waweze kupata haki yako. Kwa sababu ukiwa tukikuita tunahitaji wewe na tunajua utatusaidia. Tumeita waziri wengi, waziri wa health wamekwambia watatusaidia, waziri wa lipa watatusaidia. Sasa ile mahali imebakia ni yako, na tuko na hakika utatupa nguvu. Hata pa recommendation yako tukienda ng'ambo kukutana wale wazungu, pia utakuwa umejaribu kufanya intelligent, usikie kama pesa ilitolewa silienda wapi. Kwa hiyo nakuomba Bwana Waziri utusaidie vile watu watapata haki yao, pia ukifanya kazi ambaye ni ya Kenya. Na tunakwambia umefanya kazi nzuri na hatuwezi kusaidia wewe, lakini Mungu tunajua siku moja atakulipa.
Thank you, Senator Mondiki. Lakini just to correct you, hakuna watu walilipwa.
We are still demanding for
Parasia person, kuna semekana, ngoja kidogo, parasia person, sio watu walilipwa. Kuna pesa ilisemekana ilitoka ikaenda kwa akaunti huko ng'ambo na ndizo tunafuata.
Oh, the terrorist fund. Yes. Oh, okay. Chairperson, Vice Chair, sorry.
Thank you very much, Chair. First, thank you very much, Professor Kindiki, CS for Interior, for honoring our appearance to this committee, and of course to appear in our own house, the Senate. Now, I have very few questions, Honorable CS. One, Kenya is still a strong ally and a friend to America, and even our foreign affairs policy now seems to be leaning to America. We were attacked on that basis. We are also seeing an increase in attacks around Lamu and Mandera in the country. We also want to believe is because of the same accusation. Now, what measures has Kenya government put in place to ensure that we don't suffer any more attacks on this? And what assistance in terms of collaborations with the US government is Kenya receiving for these acts that may not necessarily have been directed to Kenyans, but arising as a result of our relationship to America? Number two, there are a number of NGOs and CBOs and CSOs that were associated with aiding the process of that attack. Were those organizations deregistered? Were the directors or those who are concerned with those organizations charged in a court of law? And if so, what was the outcome? USA compensated Americans who are working in the embassy and Kenyans who are working in the embassy and excluded the rest without compensation. We know America as a champion of human rights. And we just want to know whether there has been engagements from government with engagement by Kenyan government to American government with a view of compensating the rest of the Kenyans who are not compensated. Finally, CS, these terrorists acquired Kenyan government what I would call security documents, because identification documents are essentially security documents. You say the officers were arrested, were they charged in a court of law, were they sentenced, or what was the outcome? So that we are able to deal with that matter.
Thank you.
Finally, CS, allow me, Chair, to ask one very sensitive, not sensitive really, but I would say political. Now, the Terrorism Act, Honorable CS, gives immense power to the state to hold suspects more than about 365 days or so, for more days than the usual provisions that we have to be produced in court. Is in this law open to abuse by the state, particularly when the state is politically motivated? And I say this because I saw in the last regime, one of my former colleagues, the governor of Nairobi, Kithure Kindiki, was charged with terrorism. And I've looked at the offenses under those terrorism. Well, it can be my perception, but I don't see a situation where Kithure Kindiki was aiding terrorists. Would this not be open to political abuse? And what are the limitations that will make sure that this law is applied in a manner that is fair and for the sole purpose of deterring terrorism in the country. Whereas we appreciate the less necessary equally to deter terrorists. And we know police officers in the past have had serious issues. When you arrest, you know, suspects that you have investigated, you have tracked for a very long period of time, got some evidence, and then they are just released on flimsy grounds on, you know, a bond of 3,000. And then the fellow is asked to, you know, to show up after 6 months. And after 6 months, the guy has fled the country. We are not able. So we appreciate what the law is doing. But what is going to happen with abuse? And finally, CS, investigations in this country rely on the presence of the DCI officers. We know that the workforce in the DCI is probably below 7,000. We have police stations in this country that don't have DCI units. What plans does the ministry have? One, to increase the number of DCI officers so that the workload and the investigation can be speeded up, so that such acts of terrorism can then be addressed within a short time. Investigations can be completed. And two, do the ministry have any plans of really making DCI a completely independent unit, and be it given their own budgetary provision?